Good to go. Awesome. I would like to call this regular meeting of Kimberley City Council for Monday, July the 18th, being held here on the homelands of the Ktunaxa peoples to order. Welcome, everybody. So tonight is a bit of a red letter evening. We have the first, it's been about 2.5 years, I guess, since we've had folks attend our meeting as part of the gallery. We have a gallery here tonight. Melanie, Greg, welcome back. Maurice, do we have any late items?
There's no late items, Mr. Mayor.
Hearing none, could I have a mover to adopt the agenda? Councillor Kiddo moves and Councillor Roberts seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. We have a couple of minutes to approve. First, the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on June the 27th. Councillor Dallin moves, Councillor Roberts seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. And finally, the minutes of the special meeting held on July the 11th. Mover, please. Councillor McBain moves and Councillor Kiddo seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. All right, enough of the formalities. We have a delegation tonight. Sergeant Woodcox is here to present the 2022 first quarter report from the RCMP. Steve, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to come tonight to speak about the first quarter for fiscal year 22-23. So this fiscal year, we've, in conjunction with the City of Kimberley and our partners, we decided on 3 objectives for this year. One being traffic enforcement. That's always been a concern of the citizens of Kimberley, especially with the growing community we have. Number 2 is police visibility, engagement with the public, being more visible, making sure we're out there engaging with the public. And the third one is youth. It's not something I talk about a lot, but I can definitely tell you there's been an increase of calls for the police at the local schools over the last year. And we think it's rather important to become more engaged with the schools. We've been there for some incidents, some which are serious. And I think it's just something we need to be more engaged in, more spending our time at the schools, doing talks, engaging the youth, building a relationship with the youth. I think it's very important at this time when they're young to see us in a positive role model and maybe help them make some better decisions. But I can also say that the principals at all our local schools are fantastic to work with, very engaged. Always call us when it's appropriate, and we have a great working relationship with the high school and the other schools in town. So to recap some of the files for this quarter, I highlighted a few. We've seen an increase in theft of autos. So for the first 3 months, April to June 2022, we've seen 4 theft of vehicles. We probably don't see 4 theft of vehicles in 2 years. So even in this quarter we're in now, we continue to see that. Some of these individuals are transient in nature and have actually stolen vehicles in Kimberley to be caught in another jurisdiction. So they're individuals that aren't from the community, but for some reason are coming through Kimberley, need a ride to go somewhere else. So we have seen a great increase in that. And I do not remember any theft of vehicles from last year. So we have had that. And like I said, that continues. A couple others are drug related, where some known individuals from the Cranbrook area have come stolen vehicles. In several of these cases, people have been caught and are presently charged and before the court. Mental health, I think I speak on that routinely when I do these reports to you. That continues to be an item that continues to increase. And especially with what's going on in the world, I think people and households are feeling a lot of pressures with the cost of living, and a lot of that stuff that we deal with today, whether it's the cost of food, the cost of gas, and causes a lot of pressure on families. And I think that's where we're seeing some of this come out now, with people having very difficult time, and it's very difficult sometimes to get the resources to people. So that's something that we hope improves there in the future. There were 11 assaults during the quarter. 5 of those resulted in charges being forwarded to Crown Council. I mentioned vehicle collisions. There was 15. Council probably is aware of the 1 fatality on Highway 95 just outside of town. So the BC Highway Patrol has taken over that investigation. but as the roads get more packed and the weather gets nicer, speeds seem to go up. So we're engaging the BC Highway Patrol to kind of help us out with some of that enforcement on some of these corridors. We are somewhat short-staffed with a number of people being off, so we're trying to get some of the resources to help us out. And again, to be visible and they be in some of the corridors where we see speeds increasing so we can kind of cut down on some of these incidents happening. And I want to remind the public too, when you're driving, it only takes a minute to look at your phone or be distracted by something. And before you know it, a car in front of you stops and something terrible happens. So just something we want to tell the public to just make sure when you're on the road and speeds are high, or even when they're not, just always pay attention, leave your phones and stuff alone, and make sure you're concentrating on the road. What I did this quarter is when I showed the number of files on the second page, it's just what we usually had done in the past is put how many files are this quarter and related to last year. This time I put what we had last quarter. I think is more relevant to show what happened in the last 3 months as compared to now related to a year ago. Sometimes things change and the numbers kind of don't make much sense. So for this quarter, we had 430 files. Last quarter, we had 344. And I expect them to go up again in the summer. More people come here, more calls for service. So as the weather gets nicer and all the tourists and everyone come to town, then that is something that we will see happen. I imagine the files will be in the 500-600 range for the next quarter. So we still struggle with the number of members being off. We have been lucky to second a member from Cranbrook for the time being for the summer months to help us out. And we're just looking at trying to get some staffing to get some resources in, or maybe some of those members that are off to come back. So part of that is made being visible a little bit more difficult for us. Hopefully in the fall, we get some people back and we can be more engaged with the public, more at the schools, and do the things that we want to do proactively. So if there's any questions at all, I'm more than happy to take any.
All right. Thanks for that, Steve.
Yep.
I have a quick one to start, and that has to do with files assisting other detachments in the public. That's pretty radical increase quarter over quarter. You maybe speak to that?
Yeah, so sometimes those files, we have other detachments that will call and ask us to take statements for their investigations or things like that. Sometimes how these files are scored might show the numbers that are a little bit skewed. But I think in this quarter, we just had more requests from other detachments and other areas to do a little bit further investigation for them. And why that number is so high, I'm not sure. I just think there's been more requests of our office.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Roberts, go ahead.
A question that I'm totally unaware of the process is, does a member attend every sudden death in the home?
Yes.
I didn't know.
And the reason for that is we attend as a police to just go and assure that the death is not suspicious in nature.
Mhm.
So we attend, if there's nothing suspicious, we then call the coroner service who attends and takes over the investigation. But yeah,
Well,
that's,
that makes sense. I never thought of it before.
yeah, and that's the purpose. We just go there to make sure that there's nothing suspicious in nature.
Mm.
And like I said, if there's not, the coroner attends. If it is suspicious, then the police would take over the investigation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Kiddo.
Sorry, I might just add to that a lot you won't have to, because there's a form called an expected death at home. So people who are very elderly or dealing with chronic illness might choose to fill out one of those forms, so the police don't have to get involved, or the coroner doesn't need to be involved.
Further. Councillor Oakley.
Sergeant Wilcox, I appreciate your report today, but I do have one concern that I would like to raise here this evening. Under your objectives, it's 1, 2, and 3. I'm wondering where mental health fits into that. Is it a high priority? I know it was when you first moved here, and there were certainly some issues. And the reason I'm raising it is that every time I see the numbers on this rate going up, my concern is that the provincial mandate to offer mental health services through the various health clinics, et cetera, are, and having worked in that system for 20 years, I just worry about middle management using this opportunity to download this onto what is a federal municipal partnership. And I guess where I'm going with this is I just want to know if there's a process to clearly delineate what is going to be a mental health therapist versus RCMP, involvement, and is there a way to wean off of that so that the system doesn't get used to RCMP offering mental health services and taxpayers paying for both. So I appreciate what you're doing and what you've done, and working in collaboration with Mr. Mayor a couple of years ago. But I do have some concerns about the numbers of mental health response as climbing a little bit.
Yeah, and to speak to that, just because it's not in these 3 objectives that I speak about does not mean it's still not as important or we're still not engaged. I agree with you that a lot of the mental health stuff has been downloaded to the police. We are hopeful too that someday we can get more resources, whether it's through Interior Health or mental health workers, to attend calls for service because they have more experience. We're asking the police on a daily basis to go to mental health calls. We are not psychiatrists and doctors, but we go a lot of the time because of the danger that the situation may show when we get there. I'm always hopeful that we're going to get some more resources, and I think that these mental health calls may be better suited to be dealt with by mental health workers, but at this time, there just doesn't seem to be the resources available to us.
Go ahead.
So just a question I have on that. When you say resources, are you looking for more resources within the detachment here, or are you looking for a different type of partnership with them?
Well, so in some bigger cities, they have mental health workers, mental health nurses. There's a certain CAR, in some instances, I think they call it CAR 64, where there's a mental health nurse full-time with a police officer. They attend the high-risk mental health calls. So the resourcing would not come from the RCMP, but would come from Interior Health. Those resources need to be available through the RCMP. So in the cities like Kelowna, Kamloops, they have mental health nurses that are actually driving around all day with a police officer. And they will attend to the mental health calls because a lot of times the mental health workers know these clients one-on-one. And that's the thing. Sometimes when we attend calls and there's a mental health issue, simply walking in with a uniform on makes it worse. So if we can have a mental health worker go to that call and maybe calm the situation, that's what we want too. We would love to see that day happen. I just know with the resourcing issues at Interior Health, like we're facing in the RCMP, I don't know when that will happen, but other jurisdictions are doing that, and I think that's very helpful. In some cases in Kimberley, we have a great relationship with some of our mental health clients. So we go and we know them one-on-one, we know them by name. That helps. In the bigger centers, those mental health workers that deal with these clients on a day-to-day basis are fantastic. The police may never have to even enter the residence. It may be just the mental health nurse going. That's what we hope. So when I say resources, it's not more resources for the RCMP, but Interior Health providing resources to the RCMP.
Right. No, I mean, that's, I think that would be awesome. Even if it was like a 0.2 call out position that you just grab someone when you need it, because obviously based on the numbers, that's how it would probably have to unfold. But
And it's, I'm not lost on the idea also that sometimes just the RCMP showing up is very traumatic to people. Some people have had very bad experiences with the RCMP. I understand that. And sometimes the mental health nurses may be the ones to go talk to the client, and the RCMP can simply be in the area, but not be the first point of contact, because some people have faced trauma, and when they see the police, it makes the situation worse. So that's what I hope to happen. I don't know if I see that happening anytime soon.
right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for that, Councillor Oakley. Further, Council? Last question then, Steve. We just had a fairly awesome weekend with July Fest. I appreciate that you were out of town over the course of the weekend, but did you get any feedback from, from your office on how things went?
Yeah, very little major incidents. There's minor incidents, but overall, people were very well behaved. I think anytime you get a number of people together that are drinking alcohol, there's always the chance that that situation is going to explode into something. It did not. I'm very grateful for that. We did have some issues getting as many members here as we had in the past, just because, again, of resource issues. So we had extra people here. Was it as many as the years before? No, but we had no major incidents. So I'm very grateful for that.
Awesome.
Because again, we see other cities with major things happening all the time. We had a lot of people in town and nothing major happened. So very happy and very grateful to the citizens of Kimberley. It says a lot about everyone that lives here. So
Yeah, that's great news. Thanks for that feedback.
yeah,
It's awesome.
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Last call? All right, thanks very much, Steve. Really
Thank you.
appreciate coming.
Appreciate your time.
You bet. Feel free to sit through the rest of the meeting if you wish. It's a short one tonight. Honest. Okay, next up, under bylaws, permits and policies, we have a permit to approve tonight. And that's the development variance permit for the 12 unit light industrial shop complex down in Marysville. And the motion on the floor is that council approve the development variance permit to reduce the minimum required front and side yard building setbacks with the conditions as outlined in the staff report. Could I have a mover? Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor Kiddo seconds. All right, discussion. Troy, did you want to give us the overview one more time?
Yeah, sure. I did give an overview of the project last meeting. As you mentioned, a 12-unit industrial shop complex down in Marysville, 1180 303rd Street. It's a little change of plan from a previous application that was considered a couple of years ago, but basically the same concept overall. Plans or the notice of the development variance permit has been sent out to adjacent property owners. No comments have been received. Staff have reviewed the proposed plan and are supportive of the project overall, and we're recommending approval of both the development variance permit and the development permit, subject to the conditions as noted there in the report, like you mentioned. And those are just to make sure that all of the details come through as expected and aren't going to create any concerns or issues moving forward.
All right.
So with that, I'll leave that unless there's any questions.
Council. Go ahead, Councillor Oakley.
Thanks, Troy. Is there any, I might have just missed this. I'm just wondering about all around, the neighbors all around. Any issues? Anything? Nothing?
No comments or concerns are received from any neighbors.
Okay, thanks.
You bet.
All right, hearing nothing further, we'll call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. I guess I should have mentioned on the outset tonight that Councillor Goodwin's not late. He is unable to attend tonight. There was some last minute family business that came up that he needed to attend to. My apologies for not mentioning that earlier. Okay, first up under new business is the second quarter building department report. The motion on the floor is that we receive the report. Councillor Dallin moves and Councillor Kiddo seconds. Did you want to make any comments on this, Troy?
Not too much to add. I just introduced a few new charts here last meeting or last quarterly report, sorry. And yeah, just to continue on that trend there. So our planning application fees are we're way ahead of the recent history anyway, in terms of amount of applications coming in. Construction values are up this quarter considerably to previous years, although the number of new dwelling units overall is down compared to the past 3 years there. So I think part of that's a reflection of just the cost of construction. Even though we're seeing less new units, cost of construction, regardless of the project, is generally up across the board, of course, as we all know. So other than that, I'll leave it to any questions from council.
All right, Troy, thank you. Council? I have one, and it's less a question than just asking for a comment. Yeah, you're right. Certainly inflation, construction inflation has a lot to do with moving from the 15 million to the 20 million year to date. The number of dwelling units, though, is down considerably over where we were at last year. I know that there is a lot more in the hopper. Can you kind of make a comment on you know, how you see things unfolding on the back half of this year?
Yeah, well, I wish I could get my crystal ball working better. There's a few projects we're waiting on that have proceeded to development approval stage. I mean, I think we'll certainly see more new builds in Forest Crown and Marysville Views for sure. I know Ty's got a couple more duplex units there as well on Rotary Drive. We're still waiting on building permit applications from Central and Watkins, 49 Deer Park there. We do expect to see those here this season, of course. I think they're just doing pre-sales right now, but continues to be some strong action up in Sullivan Landing as well. But there's still quite a few empty lots there that we're looking for some building permits there. So and a few other projects on the queue, obviously on the kind of the zoning and development permit side that council should be seeing here in the coming meetings. So,
Okay,
so
awesome.
more to come for sure.
Do these numbers include the Fernie Street townhomes?
No,
Probably
there's no
not.
building permits for those yet either. That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah. Good one.
It's
Yeah.
the numbers reflect building permits. Not
That's right.
development permits.
Yeah, building permits compared to development permits. Yes, you're
Yeah,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Troy. Further counsel? Right, call the question on receipt. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks for that, Troy.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have the Animal Control and Bylaw Enforcement Report. Motion on the floor is receipt. Motion, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. Councillor Kiddo seconds. Discussion.
So
Did I
is
see
me.
Sean?
Sean is here.
Oh, here. Yeah. All
So
right.
we-
Did you want to make some comments on the report? Some highlights, Sean, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, check. Yeah, the podium would work best.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillor. So I put together this report here based on the statistics that I could gather for our records over the last 3 years. That you can see the second quarter for 2022, and then I have comparisons from 2020 through to 2022. The numbers for 2021 are lower than what would be expected due to staffing shortages for that year. We had vacation and then a temporary person filling in on occasions. And so the records for that period were somewhat incomplete. We've got some action here on the short-term rental bylaw, but this was only introduced at the end of last year, so there's nothing to compare that one to. Animal control calls for 2022 are significantly higher. That indicates a licensing follow-up that I've been performing. We had quite a few delinquent licenses which had lapsed over the last couple of years, which I've been following up on to either get those renewed or to cross them off the list in terms of whether the dogs are still in Kimberley. We also have urban wildlife, and I put that category together to reflect the calls for service related to interactions between the members of the public and deer and or bears. That was not related to garbage. Garbage falls under the solid waste. So this is other interactions with bears and deer that we were having. That's it.
Yeah, okay, excellent. Thanks for that, Sean.
So just I would like to remind council that Sean is not able to give any details on any of the files in our regular meeting. And I wanted to say Sean has been with us for 3 months. He was when he was in Australia, he was doing parking, and when he moved to Vancouver, he did the animal control. So he's bringing a lot of experience and skills. And we're in the last 3 months, we have tightened up a lot of our processes, and our revenue is up because he's done a lot of following up on dog licensing, business licensing, and ticketing as well. So,
All right, awesome. Paying your way. Cool.
Trying.
Go ahead, Councilor
No,
McBain.
I was just going to say welcome to Sean for being in front of us, and I have noticed that, and just from from what I hear on the street too, the presence is being more felt. So we appreciate that, and Last thing is I'm going to make sure that my wife has renewed our dog license because I don't think she has. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, thank you.
Councillor Oakley.
Hi, Sean. So I've got a couple of questions
Sure.
for you, especially number one, I've got two questions actually. First is around deer. So council put forward a motion which became a resolution to a little while ago to make sure that information went out for people to complain to the province, because the province is supposed to be following up on deer. So deer is not our purview in this municipality.
Correct.
So you've got a list here of 25 urban bear deer issues. So I just want to know what
Yes.
you're doing about the deer thing.
So for what we're able to do with the deer is I generally direct people to contact RAP if they haven't already done so. And then I have signs that I have from WildSafe and also from the city of Kimberley, which I can place in the area to warn people to be ensuring that they're paying attention with their dogs while they're in the area, because there is a deer that has been known to be acting aggressively. So I try and put some sort of preventative measures in place for what we're able to do as a municipality.
Thanks. The reason I'm pursuing this is that it's important to put pressure on the government of BC to make sure they deal with this.
No, I agree 100%. So that's why I always try and
Yeah.
I direct people to make sure that they contact them. I can't force them to, but I always provide them the information.
So the other second question I have for you is around ticketing. So ticketing is on the increase, certainly compared to the previous bylaw officer. And I want to understand what the process is when you hand a ticket out to actually get the money for that ticket.
Okay.
How does that work? And how
So-
much are we owed?
Right now, actually, I believe I've collected roughly 60 to 70% of tickets issued so far have actually been paid by people voluntarily. And so the first step in the current system for municipal ticket informations is that the ticket has to be served to the person. They have 14 days to pay or dispute from that time. If they fail to pay within 14 days, they're deemed guilty. And then the ticket goes to collections and it goes to proceed before judicial justice for review, at which time I would attend probably provincial court in Cranbrook and then attest to the statement on the ticket in front of a judicial justice, and they would declare that the payment has to be made and it gets sent off to collections.
So how often is that you go to Cranbrook for?
So far, none.
Okay.
Hasn't happened yet. We've been collecting them, and we're probably going to go once we start getting into the swing of things. We'll probably be quarterly.
Okay. And are you following up on past tickets? Like, because I understand we're owed a lot of money from tickets. There's
I
outstanding.
am unsure of that. I'm not currently following up on outstanding tickets. We are able to collect for what is it? In terms of what we can enforce, it's generally a 6-month window from a charge date. So to meet charge approval before a judicial justice, the charges have to be submitted within 6 months of the offence date. So if they have not been forwarded before that date, then they have probably expired.
Okay. I guess the reason I'm following up on this is that I have heard for a number of years now that not paying a ticket, a fine in Kimberley is not an issue. There's no follow-up, so just ignore it. So,
well, people are
So-
very surprised to see that I have been following up. I have been hand delivering those tickets to people, weekends, evenings, you name it, I'm there. They're getting them. And if they don't pay them, I'm ready to go.
thank you.
So that's also something we've been doing. We've been changing up the schedule. So Sean will be working some weekends and we'll be working after 5 p.m. So
Yeah, I think generally speaking, the majority of people pay the fines. You know, it's the fringe, it's the outliers that want to prove a point or for whatever reason are protesting, you know, where some of the difficulty comes in. But the vast majority of people understand that they broke the bylaw, that's the fine, and they have to pay it. I haven't heard actually, Daryl, in the last, you know, few years that we have, you know, mass ignoring of the tickets. Could I ask, I don't know that we need a motion for this, but it would be useful if we could take a look at what outstanding amounts are. If council could just get a quick note on what outstanding amounts are for tickets,
That-
backlog tickets.
I would need that.
Do we need a motion?
the thing is, how far back do you want to go?
Well, let's just go back over the past, say, 2 years.
Okay. Mhm.
Anything older than that's not relevant anyway, because we're enforcing the bylaws now. You know, and the further back you go, the more the numbers get skewed. So let's just go back a couple of years. Number of tickets and value. I'm sure that should be fairly easy.
No.
You want a motion?
No, it's fine. I
Okay.
can.
Yeah, okay. cool.
Might take me a
thank you.
little while, but
I think it's really good to have that.
Thanks for that, Councillor Oakley. Anything further, council? Call the question on receipt. All those in favor? That motion is carried.
Thank you.
John, thank you, sir. I appreciate you being here to present the report.
Thank you very much.
thank you, Sean.
All right, it's that time of the meeting where we hit the check run. That usually signifies close to the end of the regular agenda. It's a fairly short one tonight. So the motion on the floor is that council approve the check run as noted in the report in the amount of $356,940 on the first and $2,406,615 on the second. Councillor Roberts moves and Councillor McBain seconds. Pardon me. Councillor Roberts, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, the largest portions of this, especially the second one, are relative to after taxes having been paid. We've forwarded our requirement to the RDEK as well as to the Hospital Association.
The hospital,
And
okay.
yeah, so there's
So that's the
whole bunch of them.
requisition
That's
from the
big
regional district.
requisitions, yeah. And a fair amount of money on the first one is for the work that's going on the roads.
Right,
So-
Deer Park Avenue.
Yep.
Yep. All right, excellent. Thanks for that update. I believe the requisition to the regional district is about 1.2 million in that area. So that would account for about half. Okay, awesome.
It's actually here, I could just find it for you. Regional district was 934,814, and the, well, they do everything alphabetical, and I'm calling it by the wrong name.
That's okay. So 934,000 for the RD.
Yeah. I can't find the hospital one. 800 and, pardon me, 656,780.
Yeah, so 1.5
Altogether.
between the two of them.
Yeah.
All right. Hearing no further questions, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks for approving that, council. Since the checks have been written, it's good that we approve that. By the way, the motion is always approval to be approved as paid. This is the kind of the final step. Okay, we have one item under correspondence this evening, which is an email from Catherine Winkler regarding the 230th anniversary of the 15 ships of Sierra Leone. So Maurice has so first of all, move receipt. Thanks, Councillor Dallum, and Councillor McBain seconds. As with all proclamation requests, I assume that there was a letter that had gone out. Yep, kind of indicating what our bylaw calls for with proclamations. Okay, that's it. Move receipt. Or sorry, all those in favor of receipt? The motion is carried. Okay, question period. Do we have any questions from the gallery this evening? It's been a while since we've had the luxury of being able to ask directly.
Well, just happy to be back.
That's awesome, Greg.
Changes proposed to increase density. Wondering if the process. Consider if you're doing fact that we would need cost to pave all of those back alleys because the pumpers would need to get back there because of the carriage houses. I'm wondering, at what point would I raise that concern in that process? Is it early? Will I speak to a counselor about this, or should I wait until it's far?
No, Troy, are you still on the line?
Yes, I am. I didn't quite catch all of the comment or
So-
question there, though. Sorry.
So the question was, if we have carriage houses being built with access from the back lane, what obligation are we under to pave those back lanes for various access services?
Yeah, good question. Excuse me. I'm not sure there's any obligation necessarily. I think, similarly to kind of current conditions, a bit of an operational review, I guess, to just monitor condition of the lane and what kind of wear and tear and if there's any, drainage erosion issues, that kind of thing. But if there's a significant increase in development and use and traffic on there, then that may it may trigger a review of that to put some standards in place for when we want to have those paved or pave them in certain conditions. But yeah, it's good comment, good feedback, good question.
So basically, we would assess on a case-by-case basis?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be partly related to just how much new development or new activity was happening within a certain block or so, or neighborhood. But yeah, something to keep an eye on for sure.
Thank you. Does that help, Melanie? Yep. Thanks for that question. Anything further? Okay. Next up, we have councillor activities over the past couple of weeks. Has it been 2 weeks? We had the special meeting, but we don't do councillor. It's the last regular meeting. So it's been about 3 weeks, I guess, 3 or 4 weeks. Roundtable. Councillor Oakley, you want to start us off?
Yes. Just forget that thing. You need a hammer. It just goes whack, so. Anyway, railroad, Solid Mine Railroad is active now and very busy with their meetings. I'm happy to say that they're extraordinarily busy, like to the point of they've got lineups. It's really nice to see that. So it's Kimberley's #1 tourist draw for sure. Anyway, that's it for now. We've
Do they pay you for those marketing messages or what?
they are quite a group to work for, volunteer for. So that's all I have.
All right, thanks, Daryl. Councillor McBain.
No, I've been in the field working, and I was on vacation last week. But I did want to say, kind of following up on Sergeant Woodcock's, big thanks to all involved in putting on July Fest this weekend. It was great. I had a great time. Part of it was the 30-year high school reunion. That's always fun. But it was really cool just seeing so many people volunteering. It was really, really cool to see. I was standing with an old friend of mine who was volunteering, helping clean up, and a couple of young people came up and actually thanked him, which blew my mind. I thought it was like really, really cool. So I think there's still a lot of goodwill out there, and overall it was really good for Kimberley, I think, to just get out there again and see some smiling faces. So thank
It
you.
was indeed. Thanks for that. Councillor Dallum.
Not a lot of official stuff to report, but on the side of July Fest, I had a friend that was drunken escorting people out in a casual way, which worked really well. He's a refrigerator of a fella, so nobody argues with him. Besides that, first Saturday was pretty incredible. That went beyond expectation for timeline and engagement as well. So Yeah, it's been quite a buzz, and it's nice to see that people getting out together again and starting to engage in that mutual respect piece, and it's really nice to see.
Yeah, well said. Councillor Roberts.
It's a game you play. I have three things. The first thing is, if anybody has lots of time on their hands and looking for a way to actually volunteer that doesn't require much of a commitment except to be there, there's a beautiful Orpheum Theater at the mining exhibit. And it's had to be closed because they can't get anybody to sit in there and just be present so that people can go through it. So keep that in your bonnet if you hear somebody that wants to volunteer but doesn't want to do any work. That's a good one. The second thing is I was working in the Rotary trailer throughout July Fest, selling the tickets for the beer, and we're happy to report that there's I know it's more than $500 that ended up in our donation jar to support the gymnasium. So that was good news.
Gymnastics Club.
Gymnastics Club, yes, pardon me. And thirdly, my mandate with the Kimberley Nature Park, I had indicated that we were going to be having a meeting to talk about our public image. And it was quite a successful meeting. We had some really good discussion about what is our actual mandate as a society. And also, based on my comment at the previous meeting, the city's communications person, Pam Walsh, put her hand up and asked if she could join our meeting, and provided some really interesting feedback and offered us some opportunities as well as some ability to help us do certain things. So we have a list of things that we can do in the short term, and we're gathering some further information that might allow us to look at the society looking at making a claim from the grant funding in the fall that would allow us to put a kiosk in the markets in the summertime and provide some data and some knowledge to our local public people who know we have a nature park but kind of don't really have ownership of it and don't realize that they could actually be enjoying it. So that's our mandate. A little bit of the short-term stuff's on its way. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to put a QR code in the windows of the stores. And the QR code will be for the nature park, and you can click on that and find out all kinds of cool things. Something I hadn't even heard of before. So I hopefully, apparently it's a very simple thing to do and has great successes. So if anybody wants to show me how that works, I'd be pleased. All right, that's it. That's all I have. More to come.
Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you.
Nigel.
2 weekends ago, I was volunteering at the Orienteering Championships. A couple of years ago, I think Jim Webster had a great idea of the Kootenay Orienteering Club hosting some events here in the area. Pandemic kind of got in the way, and then it grew. So it was the North American, the Canadian, the Western, and the BC Orienteering Championships on that weekend. So people from all over Canada came along, and of course from the United States. Really successful event. I think we got to showcase the area to some visitors very, very well. The mosquitoes were fierce, but our juniors, the local juniors from the Kootenay Orienteering Club, performed very, very well. And in fact, some of our former juniors were in the Open Women's and got some medals there. So it was a very successful outing for the club.
That's awesome.
No, the only people who got
Everybody's
lost
accounted for?
was me, searching for a control number 60 in the bush for an hour, and I had to leave because otherwise I was going to need a blood donation.
So Nigel, just kind of very quickly at a summary, a lot of people have heard the term orienteering,
okay.
but not a lot know exactly what this was about. Can you give us the summary?
Orienteering is for people who got bored with just going for a walk in the bush. They like to get a map and a compass and go and search for things in the bush. Usually there's controls out there that they've got to find by looking at a map. Sounds easy in concept, but it's actually quite difficult, and they like to make it difficult.
And is there a time factor involved?
Yes, time, and there's different events. Sometimes the controls have to be picked up in order. Sometimes they can be scattered. But yeah, definitely it's done in time.
So it's a bit of a race.
Yeah, it is a race. Everyone carries a sports identification chip, and you have to punch in at each control, which will give you the time between controls and total time.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Go ahead, Kyle.
Just wanted to remind all the volunteer groups about Volunteer Connector through Kimberly, through the city, and Pam Walsh is hosting that piece. So just remember that when you're looking for something to do or looking for somebody to do something.
Get the Orpheum Theater on that list of requirements. Okay, so this last couple of 3 weeks, as a number of you have, actually all of you have already stated, the number of events has just exploded. It's like everything is back. And I spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks. You've already mentioned Canada Day. Hats off to to Pam and the fire department for the awesome job they did in just creating an environment down in the Plateau for people to just hang out and have a good time. I think the rain shower that came down at about 3 o'clock didn't dampen too many spirits. It was only 10 minutes and the sun was back out. So great job there. As Kyle mentioned, that first Saturday was just a buzz. It's been pretty close to 10 years now. That first Saturday, since first Saturdays were first, since the inaugural first Saturday, and boy, has it got legs underneath it. This is truly a community celebration on the Saturday, and the attendance just keeps getting better and better. The Symphony on the Mountain was an incredible success again this year. I think Jim was saying there were 650 people bought tickets of some description, whether it was for the concert itself or for the rehearsal or for the gala on the Friday night. But 650 people I think that's pretty much a maximum number for what they have the ability to hold. It was a pretty awesome event. And hats off to Tyee Homes. Tyee purchased the tent, kind of the amphitheater tent, and donated it back to the Symphony so that they're not going to have to worry about where they get the tent from every year from this point forward. That was a great gesture on the part of Tyee. They're absolutely an awesome corporate citizen here in the community. And July Fest this weekend, for the first one back after 2.5, well, I guess it's 3 years since the last July Fest. It was just a fun event. I spent a fair amount of time down there, and while there was copious amounts of beer that were consumed, there really weren't too many idiots down there that were wreaking havoc in any way, shape, or form. I think we had several thousand really happy drunks on the weekend. And why not? We're celebrating the reopening. It was pretty awesome. Okay, with that, we do have an in-camera item to deal with this evening. So,
Mr. Mayor, just before you go, I just want to add one little thing about first Saturday. Bill and I were standing outside the candy store, and there was a little lady standing kind of just in front of us, and all of a sudden she started to cry. And I asked her if she was okay. And she says, when they brought that fire truck in and they brought that ladder up, she says, it was just the most inspiring thing I've ever seen. So I thought that Chief might enjoy that, because I looked at Bill and we thought, I didn't know whether I was supposed to hug her or anyway, she was inspired.
Thanks for that anecdote, Sandra. That's awesome. Okay, move to go in camera. Councillor McBain moves and Councillor Dallum seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Thanks, folks. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Melanie. We'll take a minute to clear the classroom.
Peanut Gallery is back.